Hi, Danville. Welcome. I'm Alan Shields, Chief of Police for the town of Danville, and we are 10-8 and in service, which means we're here to uh, deliver superior municipal services that make people's lives better. And we do that by safeguarding the lives, rights, and property of everyone we serve. We're going to cover the crime and the traffic blotter. We'll also cover when you should report a crime. And then we're going to talk about the social host ordinance. And that's something very special. We usually try to cover it on this show twice a year. We throw it in the newsletter because it is hugely important to the health and welfare of our kids here in town. So stay tuned for that. This is a live show. So thank you if you're joining live. Thank you. I appreciate that. You can ask any question you want live. I'm watching both YouTube and Facebook. So if you have a question, throw it in the chat. If I can get to it during the show, I'll get to it. If I can't, I'll get to it later on during the chat. If you're watching this recorded later, I appreciate you tuning in and watching this as well. All right. So first off, we've got our evergreens. These are the things that we need you to, as always, technology gives me a little bit of a hassle. We want you to download the FEMA All Hazards Checklist. These are for those events that rarely happen but cause a lot of devastation when they do. We're highlighting wildfire right now. This will give you some information on what you can do to be prepared for a wildfire and how to survive should one occur. We also want you to sign up for the community warning system as well as NIXL, and then download the wildfire preparedness and evacuation guide. There are links to all of this in the description below. You just have to click on them and it'll take you right to that. You can see in the wildfire preparedness and evacuation guide, there's things like how to strike up a plan, how to prepare your family should one of those events occur. So make sure you download those. If you haven't, I really do encourage you. They're short guides. Really, it's on the FEMA. It's 2 pages per event, per incident. And so that you can go through them really, really quickly and then check them in the drawer and we can get on with the day. All right, let's talk about crime. You can always go to communitycrimemap.com. You can download the information that's happening in your neighborhood. You can also set up a box and get daily digests direct to your email. You can also get the Megan's Law website information on there as well. All right, so let's look at June 5th through 11th. Not too bad for the collisions. We had 2 late reported hit and runs. So these are parking lot style hit and runs, and then 2 property collisions, no injury collisions. So on the 5th, we had a non-injury collision on the 200 block of Front Street. That's one of our downtown collisions. And then on the 7th, we had 2 non-injury hit and runs. One was at the Sycamore Park and Ride, and the other was at the 400 block of Sycamore Valley Road West. That's kind of just south of the livery there. And then on the 8th, we had a non-injury collision at Diablo Road and Green Valley Road, right there by the schools. All right, so on to crime. Crime, it looks like for the 5th through the 11th, we had 5 total crimes, and these are reported crimes, Part 1 crimes. We had 1 burglary, 2 thefts, 2 vehicle thefts. The burglary was a residential burglary on June 5th. Property was stolen from the garage of a home on the 500 block of Silver Lake Drive. On the 6th, we had a little bit of crime going on. We had a vehicle that was stolen from Haskins Ranch Circle. It was later recovered in Hayward and processed for evidence. So when we process vehicles like that, when we're able to recover them quickly, even if it's not so quickly, we're going to process that car. A lot of times you'll see that we even bring it back to the station so that we can have our techs or our investigators go through it, collect DNA, and get all that stuff taken care of. Then on the 6th, we had a couple of petty thefts. We had on the 500 block of Zenith Ridge and the 400 block of Skycrest Drive. Those are the 2 gray squares that you see off to the east. And then on the 9th, we had a theft of a vehicle from Bridgeside Circle. So not much in the way of crime there. Really kudos to all of you. Now, here's what I'll say. In looking at the crime, we always try to look, what are some of the messages that we can get from this? What can we do to prevent being a victim? We know that crime from vehicles, where they steal property from vehicles, that is our lowest closure rate. We're still above the national average, but it's our lowest. Burglaries, usually there's more evidence to go on. We have a higher solve rate on those. These ones, if there's not a breadcrumb for us, it's really hard. So prevention, what do? Don't leave anything in your car. Again, I think I've said it a dozen times. Me personally, if I'm going into a store, I leave my car in the parking lot. I put my backpack on and I go in. I don't leave it in my car. If I'm going to leave it in the trunk, I make sure to put it in my trunk before I get to the destination. And then any car that's out in front of my house is going to be clean. We don't leave stuff in there. Kind of a funny story. One of my sons had one of his friends had left some jewelry in the cup holder. And I told him, I said, hey, you got to move that. You got to get it out of there. And he's like, yeah, but so-and-so left it there. And I said, well, it doesn't matter whose it is. They're going to break your window to get to that stuff. And so your car, your responsibility. Make sure that you are looking out for all that stuff. Make sure you're removing it, hiding it, do what you need to do to make it so that you are not a desirable target. Make sure that that motivated offender isn't looking your way to try to get that property, and you'll be much better off. All right. Now here's an important topic. We're going to move on to that social host ordinance. Sounds kind of funny. What is a social host? It sounds actually like someone that's throwing a party. It kind of is. The ordinance, though, is very specific. And we know that, and we've seen it year after year, where there have been tragedies, especially involving minor children, those are under 21, in the community, and it's related to drugs and alcohol, right? And so we know those are two factors. So we know that if we're trying to look not just at the point where the car hits the building or the car hits another car, we need to look further left of that. We need to look prior to that. And so one of the things that we can do is limit minors' access to both drugs and alcohol. And one of the ways that we've done that, and we brought this ordinance back to the council, I think in 2018, to revise it to not only include the alcohol, but also include the marijuana. And so what does it look like? Our social host ordinance, crime elements. So if you host any gathering and there's 5 or more people under the age of 21 and alcohol or marijuana is being served, now this doesn't mean that you're bringing it out on trays saying, here, drink up everyone. It means that you're hosting this party knowing that alcohol is being consumed. The punishment would be, it could be charged as a misdemeanor. Typically we don't. Typically we just write them up as infractions and send them in. But that means that it's the person that's violating it is subject to a $1,000 fine. And that's for each person. So if you have husband, wife, and even a minor child, a 17-year-old that's hosting this party, and all the kids are in the garage, and we go there and we find the 5 kids and they're underage and they're drinking, mom, dad, and child are all going to get cited for the infraction for hosting the social host party. And we treat it very serious. It is very important. Our council made it very clear to us, the police department, that it is something they took serious and they wanted us to enforce that. And so this is very, very important. So we'd ask, please pass this on. Believe it or not, it would almost seem like it's common sense that you shouldn't serve alcohol to kids. But believe it or not, we had a couple one time that actually complained to me and said, your officers never should have cited us. How would we know that's against the law? How could we ever have known? It seemed like a silly question to me all the way around. All right, so one more thing, and this has to do with the reporting of crime. I was at a meeting last week, and it was with a property management company. And the property manager, great property manager, and she was telling me, hey, did you know so-and-so's business got broken into? Yeah, the back window was smashed, and they took some property. Do you know so-and-so's business was broken into? Back window smashed, took some property. I said, no, did they tell you that they reported it to the police? And they didn't. And that hurts us, because if we don't know the crime happened, we don't know to investigate it. We don't know to divert resources there in a proactive way to say, hey, we need to provide additional patrols downtown, Blackhawk Safeway, in the Greenbrook neighborhood. We won't know where to put people because we don't know the problem exists. We respond based on data and complaints from you. So if you tell us, hey, there's people lurking around, there's a suspicious car that keeps circling the block, there's someone sitting on the corner and people went to the backyard, if you're not telling us your observations and then you're not reporting to us the crime that's occurring, we won't know to respond. And I would argue that even if it's a petty crime, you should report it. So the answer of should I report being a victim to the police is absolutely yes. It's always yes. Even if it's a petty crime, even if someone just rifled through your car and you just see the glove box open and stuff is strewn about, please call us, because you don't know. You may be on a court and we think they just maybe hit like Paraiso or Bridgeside Circle, right? And you may be on a street that's a little away from there. Well, that information that someone also went through yours builds a better picture for us, allows us to check that area for cameras as well. And even though they didn't take anything from you, there might be a kernel that we can use from your incident to help narrow a time frame here, solve the crime, something. But the more crimes that are reported to us in a series or by the same offender, our likelihood of solving all of those cases goes way up. So please, if you're a victim of crime, if you know someone that's been a victim of crime, please encourage them to report it to the police. All right, that's all I have for tonight. We covered the crime, we covered the social host ordinance, and we covered reporting crime. Very important to report crime. thank you all for joining us tonight. And we're 10:10, which means we're off duty, but we're always 10:08 and in service to all of you. Have a good night, Dan.